Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtokarashita Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtokarashita Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhaktivinoda Srimati Devi Swami Acharya Prabhupada Shamsha Acharya Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Yes, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's 4th canto, chapter 12, text 45. So this is actually text 45. So this is one of the few last verses of this whole pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj's pastime. So Dhruva Maharaj is going back to Godhead now. So it's one of the last verses in this section. Dhanyam yashasyam ayushyam punyam swastyenam mahat swargyam drauvyam saumanasyam prashasyam agamarshanam. Dhanyam yashasyam ayushyam punyam swastyenam mahat swargyam drauvyam saumanasyam prashasyam agamarshanam. Dhanyam yashasyam ayushyam punyam swastyenam mahat Swargyam Dravyam Saumanasyam Prashasyam Agamarshanam. Dhanyam, bestowing wealth. Yashasyam, bestowing reputation. Ayushyam, increasing the duration of life. Punyam, sacred. Swastyayanam, creating auspiciousness. Mahat, great. Swargyam, bestowing achievement of heavenly planets. Dravyam or Dhruvaloka. Saumanasyam, pleasing to the mind. Prashasyam, glorious. Agamarshanam, counteracting all kinds of sinful activities. Translation. By hearing the narration of Dhruva Maharaj, one can fulfill desires for wealth, reputation, and increased duration of life. It is so auspicious that one can even go to a heavenly planet or attain Dhruvaloka, which was achieved by Dhruva Maharaj just by hearing about him. The demigods also become pleased because this narration is so glorious and it is so powerful that it can counteract all the results of one's sinful actions. Purport. There are different types of men in this world, not all of them pure devotees. Some are karmis desiring to acquire vast wealth. There are also persons who are only after reputation. Some desire to be elevated to the heavenly planets or go to Dhruvaloka, and others want to please the demigods to get material profits. Herein it is recommended by Maitreya that every one of them can hear the narration about Dhruva Maharaj and thus get their desired goal. It is recommended that the devotees, Akama, the Karmis, Sarvakama, and the Gyanis who desire to be liberated, Mokshakama, should all worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead to acquire the desired goals of life. Similarly, if anyone hears about the activities of the Lord's devotees, he can achieve the same result. There is no difference between the activities and character of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and those of his pure devotees. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. Okay, so this verse here, it's this verse is quite interesting because we see that there's Shukadeva Goswami in quite a few pastimes. He does this, that at the end of the pastime, he throws in these material benedictions. And then when we read this, we might wonder that why is it that Shukadeva Goswami is saying these things, because we hear in at the start of the Bhagavatam that the Bhagavatam is for the Paramahamsas, and it is it's Kaitava Projahita Dharma. No, Projahita Kaitava Dharma. So Bhagavatam throws out all cheating religions, and it is only meant to glorify pure devotional service to Krishna. So why is it that Shukadeva Goswami is talking about fulfilling desires for wealth, reputation, increased duration of life, increasing auspiciousness, going to heavenly planets. So why is Shukadev Goswami talking about these things? So Krishna and his devotees are very merciful. Although the Srimad Bhagavatam is for the pure devotees, is for Paramahamsas. Devotional service, the holy name, these are all paraphernalia. They're coming straight from the spiritual world. But because Krishna and the devotees are so merciful, they are giving us access to these. They're giving us access to the spiritual realm by allowing us to come in contact with these aspects of the spiritual world. So because we are in the material world, so it means that we have material desires. And because we have material desires, so it does not mean because we have material desires, it does not mean that we are not eligible to practice devotional service. So Shukadev Goswami knows he wants everyone to have access to the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he's assuring the readers of Srimad Bhagavatam that no matter where you're coming from, no matter what is the shape of your heart, devotional service is for everyone. And it benefits everyone. So I have made some last minute notes. So here, so this verse is, Prabhupada in the purport is pointing out that there are many types of people in this world, and people have different types of desires. So, for example, if you look at this verse, it is calling out some common desires that we have. So first is dhanya, which is the desire for wealth. So this whole pastime is about, is about dhanya, right? Because we see Dhruva Maharaj, he desired to acquire so much prosperity that was, that would exceed Brahma's prosperity. So first is the desire for wealth, dhanya. Then yashasyam, which is the desire for fame. Ayushyam, which is the desire for long life. Swasthiyanam, which is the desire to increase auspiciousness in our life. Swargyam, the desire to go to heavenly planets, or the desire to improve our standard of living. For those of us who are, in the Western world, people are not aware of this, or people are not so much into the idea of going to heavenly planets. But, everyone is trying to improve their standard of living. So Swargyam, and then the last one is Aghamarsanam, is to counteract all kinds of sinful activities. So we see people engage in pious activities, especially if you're coming from a pious background. People engage in pious activities as some sort of atonement or good karma to nullify their bad karma. So this verse is pointing out, is calling out a few of the common big desires that we have. But Prabhupada in the purport is explaining that, as I was saying before, that no matter what sort of desire we have, for all desires, it is best to approach Krishna. So he's quoting that famous verse, Akamo sarva kamava moksha kama udarati tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. So an intelligent person approaches Krishna to fulfill all desires. And why is that? So I thought we look a little bit at that, about the various options that are available to us for fulfilling our desires. So either we can try to fulfill our desires ourselves. And when we try to do that, then we are basically taking shelter of the material energy. But what happens when we try to fulfill our desires ourselves? So first of all, Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto, he says that as soon as the living entity starts to make a plan to achieve material happiness, he invites misery in his life. So as soon as we start planning, that process of planning for material happiness is concomitant with inviting misery in our life. So we make plans to fulfill our desires, and then we go about, we engage in strenuous endeavor, because nothing comes easily in this world. So we engage in strenuous endeavor to try to fulfill our desires. And we may fulfill our desires, the desires may get fulfilled, but they may not bring us the satisfaction that we want. And often, our desires are not even fulfilled the way in which we want to fulfill them. Something or the other is always missing. And as we're trying to fulfill our material desires by ourselves, the challenge is that neither do we get purified, but instead of getting purified, we get more implicated in the material energy, which means that we get more implicated in the cycle of birth and death, and we get more implicated in material energy means that our material desires, they just increase more. So we see from the pastime of King Yayati, that he exchanges his old age with his son for his son's youth. And for thousands and thousands of years, he's engaging in such intense sense gratification. But still, his desires are never fulfilled. And then he makes that famous statement, that trying to fulfill your desires is like adding fire to the fuel. So by adding fire to the fuel, it doesn't solve the problem. The fire doesn't go down, but the fire only increases. So by trying to fulfill our material desires by ourselves, it doesn't actually help us. It just increases the fire of material existence even more. And this is what is referred to in the first verse of the Guru Vashtakam, Samsara Dava Nalalidha Loka. There is such a it's the burning fire of material existence. And basically this burning fire is the fire of desire. Our desires are burning us. And Prabhupada explains in one purport that the difference between the liberated living entity and the conditioned living entity is that the conditioned living entity is compact in hankering and lamentation. Whereas for the liberated living entity, they are in Vaikuntha, so they have no kuntha. So they have no anxiety, there is no lamentation, and there is no hankering. But whereas we are compact in hankering and lamentation. Hare Krishna. So the more we try to fulfill our desires ourselves, the more we become compact in this hankering and lamentation. The more we become implicated in material energy. So it's the famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatmaha kartaham iti manyate. More and more, we're just enforcing that idea, that I'm the doer, and I can do this by myself. More we are increasing our illusion. So this is what happens when we try to fulfill our desires ourselves. But instead, if we take the other way of approaching Krishna to fulfill our desires, then what happens? So actually, only Krishna can fulfill our desires. So there's the famous verse from Katha Upanishad, Eko Bahunam Yovidadati Kama. That there's only one supplier, and he's supplying and he's fulfilling the desires of so many. So only Krishna is able to fulfill our desires. So even when we are trying to fulfill our material desires by ourselves, and we may think, that I'm doing this, or that this person has helped me to fulfill my desire, or that this is my source of income. But actually, all that is coming from Krishna. So and I was just reading this pastime yesterday, which I think is a good, it's a good example of this. So this is the pastime of from the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Narada Muni approaching Mrigarari the hunter. So when he asks Mrigarari to break his bow, so he says that this is my source of maintenance. How will I feed myself if I break my bow? And Narada Muni says, don't worry, I will send you food. So Prabhupada writes in the purport that actually our source of income is not our source of maintenance, that Krishna is maintaining us. Krishna is maintaining the ant. Krishna is maintaining everyone. It might just seem that our source of income is our source of maintenance, but actually Krishna is maintaining us, and Krishna is fulfilling our desires. And the ways in which he fulfills our desires, they just, they seem to be like agents. They're just his agents, but actually it's all coming from Krishna. Either way, whether we go, whether we take shelter of Krishna's material energy or we take shelter of his internal energy. So, yeah, but we know what is the result of taking shelter of Krishna's material energy. When we take shelter of Krishna's material energy, the result is that we forget Krishna more and more. So, when we approach Krishna to fulfill our desires, so this is what Krishna says in chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita. That four types of people approach me. I think I have it here somewhere in my file. There's a really nice line in this purport that I like. So it's 7. It's in 7:18. So in 7:16, Krishna explains, that how four types of people, four types of pious men begin to render devotional service: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. And then in text 18 in Prabhupada, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there is an exchange of affection. Out of affection, they ask the Lord for some material benefit. And when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service. So this is what happens when we actually approach Krishna for some material desire. If we want to fulfill some material desires, so instead of approaching demigods, or instead of, trying our own program, it is better to approach Krishna and then just patiently wait. Let Krishna's plan unfold. So when we approach Krishna to fulfill our material desires, because there is this exchange of affection, we actually move ahead, because we are grateful to Krishna for fulfilling our desires, then because of that gratitude, we are able to make some advancement in devotional service. And so there's this really nice text in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's actually referred to in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but it's originally from Srimad Bhagavatam. So give me a moment. Okay. So when we approach Krishna, this is the section from Chaitanya Charitamrita where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining the Atmarama verse to Sanatana Goswami. So he's saying that devotional service is so strong that when one engages in it, he gradually gives up all material desires and becomes fully attracted to the lotus feet of Krishna. All this is brought about by attraction for the transcendental qualities of the Lord. And then there is this verse that is quoted from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is prayers by the residents of Jambudvi, 5th canto, chapter 19. The series of verses is from 26 to 28. So the demigods are glorifying the residents of Bharatvarsh because they have the ability to render devotional service to Krishna. Because we are in the land of mixed happiness and distress, so it is easy for us to approach Krishna. But whereas the residents of the heavenly planets, they are just so much enjoying themselves that they don't feel the need to contact Krishna. So this is what the residents of heavenly planets are saying. Text 27. The Supreme Personality of Godhead fulfills the material desires of a devotee who approaches him with such motives. But he does not bestow benediction upon the devotee that will cause him to demand more benedictions again. However, the Lord willingly gives the devotee shelter at his own lotus feet, even though such a person does not aspire for it. And that shelter satisfies all his desires. That is the Supreme Personality's special mercy. And so the same text, when it is quoted into Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada translates it like this. I'm just going to read the last part. When one has other desires but engages in the Lord's service, Krishna forcibly gives one shelter at his lotus feet, where one will forget all other desires. So this is actually what happens when we approach Krishna to fulfill our desires, is that we make advancement in devotional service, is that actually Krishna gives us a taste for serving him. And by that taste, we are able to lose our taste for material desire. So this is the famous verse from Bhagavad Gita 259, Param Drishtva Nivartate. That when one experiences a higher taste, he automatically loses taste for for pale things, for pale material desires. So okay. So we see that when we approach Krishna to fulfill our material desires, we may have personal experience of this, that how Krishna in his own way, he fulfills the material desires that we have, even though we may have asked them, even though we may have requested his help to fulfill them, or we may have not. They might just linger in our heart, and we may see that, we may have experienced that in time. In his own way, Krishna fulfills our material desires. But the interesting thing is that Krishna fulfills material desires more easily than he fulfills spiritual desires. Because we read in the Nectar of Devotion that it's one of the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, that Krishna can only be achieved by the causeless mercy of a pure devotee. There is no other way to achieve. There is no other way to achieve devotional service. There is no other way to achieve this exalted platform of rendering transcendental devotional service to Krishna, because Krishna doesn't give himself so easily. Because Krishna is Bhaktavatsal, and because he comes under the control of a devotee. Kartik is approaching soon, and we know that famous pastime. So because Krishna comes under the control of a devotee, so that's why he doesn't give himself so easily. So it is much more easier to get our material desires fulfilled from Krishna than to get our spiritual desires fulfilled. So in order to fulfill our spiritual desires, we need to have a strong desire, and we need to work hard to get our spiritual desires fulfilled. And this is because Krishna doesn't give himself so easily, but one who is sincere. So that is why Krishna connects a sincere devotee to his devotees. And this is what we're reading in today's verse, when Prabhupada is saying, if anyone hears about the activities of the Lord's devotee, he can achieve the same result. There is no difference between the activities and character of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and those of his pure devotees. So the devotees of the Lord are more merciful than the Lord himself. And actually, the devotees of the Lord make it much more easier for us to approach Krishna. They make it much more easier for us to make progress in Krishna consciousness. And that's the reason why Krishna connects us with his devotees. That is his system. That actually, by the association of devotees, we become purified and we gain the qualification to render devotional service to Krishna. So, in this same section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining the Atmarama verse to Sanatana Goswami, he is explaining the power of devotees. And he is explaining the different types of Atmaramas. So he says, okay, so I'm going to read a few verses. So this is, Okay. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains different types of Atma-ramas. So one type, he says, because one meaning of Atma is also refers to the body. So he's saying that a person who is in the bodily conception of life, who's very much engrossed in the bodily conception of life, is an Atma-rama. So now there are two types of Atma-ramas, he says, that one who worships his own body as Brahman. So such a person is an Atma-rama. And he says that when such a person comes in contact with a devotee, he gives up this mistaken idea, that he is the supreme himself. And instead he engages himself in devotional service to Krishna. So this is an example of a moksha coming, that someone who is desiring liberation, but when such a person comes in contact with a devotee, he gives up this mistaken idea and he takes to devotional service. Then other type of Atma-ramas are those who are engaged in fruitive activity. So, they perform, so you have two types of people there, so you have one type who engage in performing pious acts, good karma. So when these people, they perform pious activities, but when such persons come in contact with the pure devotee, they give up their fruitive activity and fully engage in the service of the Lord. So this is the other type of Atma-rama. And then the example here is of the sages of Naimisharanya. They wanted to increase, they wanted to bring about more auspiciousness. And so they were they started this sacrifice. But then they said, that we've just begun performing this fruitive activity, a sacrificial fire. But due to many imperfections in our action, we are not certain of its result. Our bodies have become black from smoke, but we are factually pleased by the nectar of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead Govinda, which you are distributing. So this is also the situation of the living entity, that when we try to fulfill our desires, there's always, we can never be certain that actually that is what causes so much anxiety. It's always, there's always this anxiety in the mind that, okay, I'm doing this, but am I going to achieve the result that I want? And there are so many ifs and buts in the path of fruitive activity that that anxiety is always there. And at the end, what happens is that we just end up turning black. But whereas when we approach the path of devotional service, we know for sure that the result is all good, because Krishna is all good. There's no there is absolutely no downside in engaging in devotional service, because it's a complete win-win situation. You make progress and you make advancement in devotional service, and at the same time your desires are also satisfied. So often we may think that there is a connection between fulfilling our desires and achieving satisfaction, but actually these two are not connected, because satisfaction comes only from serving Krishna. Samsiddhir haritoshanam. So yayatma suprasidati. So that satisfaction of the heart only comes from satisfying Krishna's senses, not from fulfilling our desires. So when we engage in devotional service, we achieve that satisfaction. Okay, and then the next step of Atma-ramas are the tapasvis, people who engage in severe austerities and penances to elevate themselves to the higher planetary systems. Of course, that's not happening today, but still. So when such persons come in contact with a devotee, they also give up all those practices and engage in Lord Krishna's service. The taste for loving service is like the water of the river Ganges, which flows from the feet of Lord Krishna. Every day that taste diminishes the results of sinful activities acquired over a period of many births by those who perform austerities. So this is the power of associating with the devotees of the Lord, is that no matter what type of material background we are coming from, no matter what type of desires are lingering in the heart, they all get purified in the association of devotees, because we get the taste for serving Krishna. And this is what Prabhupada is also saying in this purport of 718, that we may be that a third class devotee, second class devotee, no matter what we are coming with, everyone gets purified in the association of a first class devotee, and everyone can rise to that platform. So So, okay, so on this point of associating of the power of devotees and the power of devotee association, so what is it that is actually happening? So a devotee, what is it that a devotee does? So a devotee actually gives us the opportunity to engage in devotional service. So this opportunity is like a ticket. Now, Prabhupada would often say this. Prabhupada would say that I'm giving you the ticket to go back to Godhead. Now, let's say that that you get a movie ticket from someone, or you get a ticket for a show from someone. So when you get a ticket, you can just take this ticket and keep it in your, and you can just keep it on yourself. So for example, you're walking down Queen Street, or you're walking down somewhere, you get like a free voucher for something. I can give an example like at the loft, sometimes we give free vouchers to people who come for the first time, to encourage them to come back. And so many of them, they don't come back with the free voucher. So we may get a ticket, but just having the ticket is not enough. So if you just keep the ticket, and if you take it with, and if you just keep it with yourself and don't actually go to the movie theater and watch the movie, then you're not utilizing the ticket. But at the same time, if you don't have the ticket, you can't go and watch the movie. So without the ticket, you can't go and watch the movie. But it requires your own endeavor to go and watch the movie to have that experience. So similarly, the devotees are always offering opportunities to engage in devotional service. So they're giving us the ticket for devotional service. But then we have to actually engage in devotional service to be able to take advantage of that ticket. And so what is this ticket that they're giving us? So this ticket is like, so they're giving us the ticket to the train of devotional service. So if we imagine, if we can picture this in our mind, that how devotional service is like a train. It's the process of devotional service. So they're giving us the ticket for engaging in the process of devotional service. But we have to engage in this process of devotional service. Like Prabhupada says that we have to fly our own plane. He has given us the ticket. So we actually need to engage in devotional service. So once we aboard this train, and now what is this train of devotional service? It is the 9 processes of devotional service. So devotees actually make it possible for us to engage in these 9 processes, right? So for example, Shravanam, what would be here if we didn't have the Srimad Bhagavatam? If the holy name wasn't coming to us through Guru Parampara, what would be here? If we didn't have all the lectures to listen to, what would we hear? How would we do kirtanam without the association of devotees? So every process of devotional service is actually meant to be done in the association of devotees. So the devotees are giving us this ticket. So, and this train of devotional service is the 9 processes of devotional service. Now, as we go through different phases in life, our devotional service also goes through different phases. I don't know about you guys, but I have this experience for myself that sometimes I'm on the front, and the train of my devotional service is going full steam ahead. And sometimes I feel like I'm on the back, the last one, it's like the train is gone, and like you see this in India, the train is gone, and some people just run and just somehow or the other hang on. So sometimes life is like that you're just hanging on. But no matter where we are on the train, so first of all, we have to be on the train. Like if we are not on the train, then our goal should be to get on the train, and our goal should be to always move ahead, to come to the front of the train. So we should not get demotivated by this goal. So let's say if we're off the train, or if you're at the back, we should not be demotivated. We shouldn't get demotivated that, oh gosh, I need to go to the front of this train. It's a long way to go and I need to go to the front. So we should not get demotivated by the goal of pure devotional service. That I have so many desires in my heart, how am I ever going to get there? No, that goal is meant to motivate us, because we have the means to get there. So we should always be motivated in devotional service. Utsaha nishchaya dhairyat. So we have to be enthusiastic, patient, and be confident about the process of devotional service, that I'm on the train and if I'm doing my part, which means that if I'm engaging in the process of devotional service, then I will achieve my goal. So we have to be enthusiastic. Then we can reach our goal faster. So this is what is actually happening. So we may have the association of devotees, but that association will act if we actually follow what they're asking us to follow. So if we actually take the ticket and if we board the train, then we can take full advantage of their association. So for example, Lord Brahma, he was the first living creature in the universe. There was no one else around him. So at that time, he didn't have any devotee association. But he received instructions from Krishna. He heard the two words, tapa, he heard it twice. And first he was like, okay, what should I do? But then when he realized that, he used his intelligence and he was like, okay, let me follow this instruction. And then when he followed that instruction, then he received all the powers that, he needed to do his service. So, so he followed the instructions. So similarly, when we actually follow the instructions and when we follow guidance, then we get empowerment to do our service properly. Okay, now another example in this regard is the example of Srila Prabhupada himself. So he received the order from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, from his spiritual master, of spreading Krishna consciousness, of going to the Western world. He received that very early on in his age. We know that, I think he was probably just maybe when he was 22, 23, he received that instruction from him. But he was just starting his life at that time. And he was not in a stage, to be able to fulfill that order straight away. But we read in the Lilamrita how he says that it was never a question for him of not fulfilling that order, but it was just a question of the right time. And he was always meditating on it. And not just meditating, he was always planning, he was always taking small steps in that direction. So, even though we may be on the back of the train, or we may be just, we may have not boarded it yet, or maybe, we've boarded it and then we get off. But always on our mind, like we should always be taking small steps towards in that direction of climbing the train and moving forward to the front. Yes, that I'm going there. So that should always be on our mind. So we may have so many material desires in the heart, but our spiritual desires should always be at the forefront. Material desires, we can let them go on the back burner and we can let Krishna take care of them. But we should never do that to our spiritual desires, because to have a spiritual desire is a very, very, it's a very rare thing in this world. In the material world, to have a desire, to even have a slight desire to serve Krishna is a very, very rare thing. So if we have that desire, and even if we don't have it, then we should cultivate that desire by taking small steps towards going towards, that full steam, towards our full steam goal. So that is what I wanted to say, about the power of devotees, that when will that association act the most on us, because we are reading in this purport that okay, so we're reading in this purport that there is no difference between the activities and the character of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and those of his pure devotees. And if anyone hears about the activities of the Lord's devotee, he can achieve the same result. So this is when, this is when the transcendental potency can act on us. Is that we are situated rightly, that we are on the train and we are taking steps to move ahead. So we take the ticket, climb the train, and move ahead. No matter how far back we are, we have confidence in the train. Okay, now one last point was, so in this translation, and also in many other places in the Shastra, we hear such texts that by doing this, by reading this, by reading this pastime, one can get this, one can get this, one can get this. And then, one may think that, why am I not getting all these things? Like, okay, in this verse, you have the benediction from material desires, but in many other places in the Shastra, you get, like, for example, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we're reading, and we read that one who reads this pastime with faith, soon attains the loving shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. We read benedictions like that. So we may think that why is this not acting on me? So the degree to which we are able to receive the benedictions of the Bhagavatam, to receive the benediction of the association of the holy name, of the devotees. So the degree to which we are able to receive this in our life and for their effect to manifest, it depends on our own purity. So what does this mean? Our purity. So it means that what is the purity of our lifestyle, and what is the purity of our lifestyle, and what is our sincerity? Like, where is my desire at? So that am I. So for example, we may spend a lot of time with devotees, but actually, if we don't have a prayerful mood, if we are not praying to Krishna in the heart, then we may not be able to get full advantage of their association. Of course, devotee association always rubs off, but in order to get full advantage of the association of devotees, or of the association of Srimad Bhagavatam, or of the holy name, we need to have the right mood in the heart. That Krishna, please help me. Please help me to get benefit from this association. Please help me to go ahead in my devotional service. Please help me to see the glories of this pastime. Please help me to, please help me to realize what is in these verses. So that desire has to be there. So that prayer, that prayer to the super soul has to be there. And I just wanted to end with one point on this part of prayer. Just one second. So I'm reading this book, The False Ego. Last time I gave this class, I was reading Sheltering Relationships. Now I'm reading False Ego. So she is saying, in discovering the false ego, okay, I only want to establish that it requires conscious endeavor to even recognize, let alone subdue and dissolve the false ego. It does not take place automatically, simply by time passing by. Otherwise, we would not have to face such situations even after 30 or 40 years of practicing Krishna consciousness. So the point that she's making is that we need to consciously engage in devotional service. So we need to have a prayerful, attitude. Always praying to Krishna, that Krishna, please allow me to serve you in a way that is pleasing to you, and let me put my material desires on the back burner. Okay, so I would like to end there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. You gave a few points for food for thought today. So time to reflect on how we should actually approach Krishna and pray for a good attitude, and for how to execute service in a correct manner. Thank you for the class. I'll just ask the devotees on the forum whether any questions or realizations they have to share. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much for a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna.
I especially like the analogy of the train and the journey, and having the ticket and using the ticket. So thank you for that insight. It'll keep me through the day. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I've actually really been meditating on that point because I was reading somewhere, that how Prabhupada has given us the ticket. But yeah, but what is this ticket to, that you need to go and watch the movie show. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for the nice class. You have dealt extensively with various things. So from the beginning that you told that when you ask for material things, we lose the opportunity to purify ourselves because that desire keeps us away, takes us away from the Lord. So the best way is to approach the Lord even for material things also, because in the process we gradually get purified and we can approach to the right goal. And the very other very good example you've given us that we are, although many of us often think that the economic activity I'm doing, whether I'm doing a business, whether I'm doing a job, or whatever I'm doing, I'm maintaining myself with that. And without that, how can I maintain myself? But Krishna is the real maintainer. And we often lose sight of that very important thing. And particularly in our day-to-day life, and when we mix with material people, that agony often creeps in our mind. But if we remain in touch with the devotees, then we get the right direction and understand that who is our real maintainer. And finally, the Mataji has also told that you have given a very nice example, insight that the devotee association can give us the ticket for availing a particular thing, like a train journey or to a cinema, going to a cinema or whatever it is, enjoyment. But ultimately, it is our endeavor that we have to go there personally and to enjoy to get the benefit or to reach the goal. Without our personal effort, others may be helping us, but we need to engage ourselves for the desired goal. Otherwise, we can't reach there. Thank you very much for the very well explained and well, it's a very nice way you have explained all the things. Thank you once again for the nice class.
Thank you, Prabhu, for amplifying the point. Actually, it just brings to my mind, it's like when you give a Bhagavatam class, it's so purifying because it just shows you what you need to do yourself in your own life. So this point of that you were just saying of of the ticket, that devotee association may be there, but we have to make our own endeavor. So it's like in my own life, I live with a Sankirtan devotee, it's like her whole life revolves around book distribution. And, she is so dedicated and so determined that come what may, rain or shine, life or death, it's like she goes out every day she goes. And it's like every day I just look at her and I'm like, geez, one day I'll be that inspired, or one day, I'll have the determination to be like her. But actually I'm not doing anything. So in order for me to actually take advantage of her association, it's like I need to come out of my comfort zone and go. So yeah, that example just came to my mind as you were just making that point. Yeah, thank you.
If there's no other comments or points, then Mataji will bring the platform to a close. Thank you very much. We hope to hear from you soon. Vancha kalpasrupescha
कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः.
Thank you so much for your association, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare